Hi guys, this is Jamie Cooper here with Caden Academy, and I am live here with Lisa Snyder today. She is our Monday mentor. Lisa, thank you so much for being here with us today. How are you?
I'm doing fab. How are you?
Yeah, I'm doing fab too. And you are coming from us from Oregon. You're
Portland, Oregon.
Portland, Oregon. And well, tell us a little bit about yourself, what you have going on, and how you started a business in the cannabis industry.
Sure. I've been working on the web since the mid 90s and in business full time as a web designer since 2006. I've had feminist events for over a decade and founded a bunch of different festivals and benefits. And I was feeling like those things, the feminist events particularly, were missing for me. There was a festival that I really loved going to and it ended. And so there was like this vacuum effect for me. And I really felt and do feel very inspired to help women move forward in the world. So I decided to combine efforts in my event planning and web design to launch Tokeativity, which is a cannabis event series for women. And I partnered with a woman, a really awesome woman. Her name is Samantha Montanaro, who had a space for me to work in. And so we've been doing these feminist events since January. And I've been combining the web design skills that I've built over the last 20 years and the community building skills that I've sort of have surfaced for me. I'm a Libra. I like to gather people. So it's just always like been super natural to me. And also my desire to help women move forward in the world under one roof in regards to Tokeativity. And I still do my web design business. I consult people who need help figuring out like what they need to do in order to get their website moving forward. And again, I've spent a long time building websites, primarily in WordPress over the last 10 years. So it's like a little gist of like my background.
Awesome. And boy, the whole online scene has really changed over the last 10 years too.
Yeah, I didn't start off with social media marketing at all, but then as Facebook and Twitter and YouTube and then Instagram surfaced, it was, definitely the way to make everything sort of web together. There's a lot of people in different places that like to hang out in different places and you need to be able to reach them and, and communicate with them.
Yeah, that's the truth. And like you and I kind of talked about this a little bit before we went live, but there's a lot of companies that aren't marketing near as much as they should right now. When this business started, people were like, if I build it, they will come. And I mean, because there really wasn't a whole lot of cannabis businesses, but more and more are popping up. And now these companies really are going to be forced to market themselves and build these really great, valuable websites that's going to attract those potential customers.
I agree. I think especially for the small business and a lot of women who like don't make as much money as men, and we need as many strategies as possible so we can stay relevant. As these businesses start to grow and there's more money that gets thrown into the ring, we need to be able to learn how to work with our communities that we've been working on building, and especially like help each other. That is something I'm very, very adamant about, is collaboration and making sure that you're including yourself in like-minded networks, especially women who, you can help each other move forward. This, I think, is a great example of that. Like you're helping, I know that you reach everybody, but I know that there's like a women focus. And, additionally with Tokeativity, our goal is to help women move forward in the world and to connect with each other, whether they're in the cannabis industry or they're a cannabis consumer. And help to create empowering spaces to do that. But we need each other, especially right now, and especially in the political climate that we're experiencing right now.
Yeah. And it's helped to surround yourself with a community of women, because all we want to do is really help each other and bring each other up, and it's not something that you see in organizations that are run by men, and so I think I love what you're doing, and you're creating more opportunity, and your goal is to create more opportunity for women in this space. Have you seen a lot more, like from your angle, have you seen a lot more women getting involved in this than when you first started?
Yes. And by this, you mean the cannabis industry?
Yes, the cannabis industry.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that there's a lot of space and there's a lot of room, and there's like new businesses popping up every day, and there's all these entry points. A lot of the entry points are like farm work or bud tender work, but very quickly women like move up because the companies learn that they're like, oh, they're trustworthy. They know what they're doing. They're organized. They actually are more organized than, the CEO who's been doing things for like 10 years, like whatever. Like there's just been a lot of opportunities for women to step into the ring, and this is definitely our time to do that.
It really is. And so tell me a little bit about your Tokeativity events. Like, what does one look like?
We've got different events. They range from like empowering workshops. We're doing one tomorrow with the CEO of Callagea about women in sales. And we have one coming up at the end of October that's how to publish your book. So these are like not necessarily totally tied to the cannabis industry, but you can apply it. But you can also be a woman just like out there in the world who wants to know how to write a book. Our events so far have been consumption friendly, and that's really set us apart from like we have a space here in Portland where it's sort of like in this area that like Portland, the city, supports, and it's sort of hanging out in the gray area. And we've been really working with the city in different aspects to encourage the ability to have consumption friendly events. We do plan on doing other events that are non-consumption friendly necessarily, so that we can sort of expand beyond Portland. But our social gatherings are probably the most fun because we have these little experiences in all these different rooms. We have women-owned businesses. We give them free tables to come and talk about what they do, to sell what they sell. Our next one is this witchy woman theme. They're all themed. So, we're going to have Sativa Science Club, Yerba Buena Farms. We're going to have this woman called Stitch Witch. Like we have intuitive women, card readers. Like we have an experience that women are, they get to connect with each other. Again, whether they're in the cannabis industry or they are a cannabis consumer, they love cannabis. And so we want to talk about it. We want to we've been in corners, smoking bowls in our rooms, so
in the laundry room,
yeah, like blowing it out the window. And so like, this is the time to, to be, to normalize and to have conversations with other women that, that share the common thread. These events have also been, multi-generational. So we've had, everyone from early 20s to someone in their 70s, and it's really been such a beautiful thing. And we also give scholarships to low income and minority women to increase availability to be able for, because as a white woman, I know that there's certain privileges that I have, and that I can use this place in life for good, and to make sure that I'm helping other women who might not have the money or the resources to be able to access the community like this. And we really need to be encouraging that.
Absolutely. You sit here and talk about your events, your Tokeativity events, and like me living in a state, like we just haven't blown up yet, and it's coming, it's waiting to happen. And I am just so excited to have some of those social events here that you see in Oregon and you hear about in Oregon or California or Denver, because we don't have that here. Like everybody is still hidden and so scared. And so, it shows you that, in states like Oregon, where it's just so normalized, and then a state like Michigan, we have a long way to go.
Mm-hmm.
But it's coming. And so how has it been trying to organize events with that whole social consumption issue still being a roadblock sometimes?
Well, it's becoming more of a thing here because the city of Portland wants this to happen, and it's really just about trying to figure that out. And so right now, being in a private space, like away from the public eye, has been one of the requirements. I mean, I'm going to put that in quotes because it's all in like this gray area where, like, you know, they have bigger fish to fry and they do want to support the tourism that cannabis brings. And it is unfair for a lot of people who are maybe in public housing, or may not want to smoke in their homes, or like can't legally because they're like, you know, the housing is federally funded or whatever. So there are no places to consume, you know, and it's unfair to pass laws where you're making it legal, but then there's no place to consume. And so I think that's the next wave of the cannabis movement. And Portland's definitely at the forefront of this space because the city of Portland wants this.
Yeah. Well, wonderful. Well, back to what you do, and you own a web design company. And so you have a little bit of teaching for us today, some stuff for us to learn about web design and planning strategies.
I do. And it's really stemmed from like being witness to so many people having these, I'm calling them digital dramas. Like, I don't know if you've had a digital drama or not, like, you know, like where something funky happened and you're like, oh my God, like, why did this happen? Or how did I get myself in this place? And so I definitely have some tips about how to avoid some of that stuff. And you don't have to be someone who's super technical to understand some of these things, but I would like to go over like, you know, just some basics about thinking about planning, website planning, or if you're at the place where you are, you know, you're thinking about redesigning, this is also a conversation to be a part of as well.
Awesome. Well, yeah. Let me see. And you can, I think, so there should be a share screen button on and then that's how you'll be able to share your screen.
Cool. Let's see how this goes. Okay. Can you see my screen?
I see it.
Okay. And how's that?
It looks great.
Okay, groovy. Okay. I just want to make sure this, okay, good. Great. I want to talk about web design and planning strategies. These are just some basic things to think about as you're planning your website. If you've never done one, or if you have one and you're thinking about redesigning it, these are some tips and tricks that I really want to communicate. So some of the things that I would like you to ask yourself are, do you get overwhelmed thinking about putting your website together? Are you not sure where to start? This I've seen a lot where people have asked for help from their friends and family, and then they've either dropped off or they couldn't figure it out, and they're really, really slowing you down on like moving forward. You're agreeing. Does that happen to you?
Yeah, it does.
Oh, it does currently. Uh-oh. Well, this is for you. Yeah, so this is about getting unstuck. And so I really like this Seth Godin quote: the only thing worse than starting something and failing is not starting something. So this is motivating to sort of shift gears and, you know, also be thankful for starting whatever it is, whatever project you've started, whatever business you started, keep going. You know, like, it's scary out there. It's hard to like do what you do. And it's really important that we remember that it's brave to put yourself out there. So this is just some numbers. I just wanted to remind everybody that there's 3.8 billion people who have access to the internet. Now, I looked that stat up last night, and this is of June 2017. So that's like over 50% of the world's population that has access to the internet. That means that there's over 50% of the population of the world that may have access to you and what you're doing. Just putting that out there.
That's a lot of people.
That is a lot of people. And then in North America alone, it's 320 million. So think big. Your website matters. And so if it looks funky, if it's not working properly, you really want to work on making sure this is your digital footprint. This is your like digital business card that you really want to, you know, make sure is working properly. So some of the things I want to talk about is like how to save money and time while strategically planning out your website for longevity. some digital branding basics of how to score memorable domain names and social media handles, what digital tools you should use for your level of tech, because I know not everybody is super technical, and I made a little chart based on sort of my experience working with people about where they're at. I'll talk a little bit about the differences between some of the website builders like WordPress, Squarespace, Wix, and Weebly. Some website hosting strategies to reduce headaches down the road. I've seen so many crazy things happen, and I'll tell you a couple of stories along the way. But hosting is a really big deal, and you should be very conscious about where you host. When to choose DIY and when to hire help. And then I have some secrets about how to get up in Google using search engine optimization. I've been doing search engine optimization for about 10 years now, and Google has their own secret algorithms, but there are definitely some things out there that have been known and work, and I'm going to talk about those. And then I have some do's and don'ts on how to avoid digital dramas. I think that everyone's felt like this at some point in time when something funky has happened, and I really want to help you avoid feeling like this girl.
Yeah, I feel, sometimes it's very overwhelming for those, especially for those that just don't really dig the digital world like we do. For us, it's easy, but there are some people that it literally just stresses them out.
Yes. And I have that on my chart too. And that's okay. Like I've seen people like get really stressed, like go 0 to 60 and they don't have a lot of patience for it. And like, there's different tools that work better for you if you're, one of those types of people who gets really easily overwhelmed, etc. So we talked a little bit about my background already. My dad was a video engineer for CBS. He was an Emmy Award winner. So like I have had technology in my life like forever and ever. And I really love helping empower people, especially women, to to find their digital empowerment in certain places. I have also worked with MTV.com, and before I broke out into my own, I used to work for a production company in Manhattan called Magnet Media. And this is like some photos of us back in the day of right before I broke out to work for myself. And some of the things I told you about establishing some women's festivals and gatherings. I started a feminist nonprofit in New York City, meetup for bisexual and lesbian women. That's where I met my wife. I started my web design business around that time, then Tokeativity came around. So this is sort of like my background. Again, I already sort of said a lot of these things. This is us in April 2017. Not everyone's there, but like a lot of us are there. And that's my business partner, Samantha. And so really what I do is I combine digital tools and relationship building skills to build community. And I feel like a website is a community and a brand builder, a digital business card, and an access point to you and what you do. So let's dig in. So here's the chart I was talking about. So you don't have to be tech savvy or, to maintain an online presence, but here's how you can sort of base how comfortable you are learning technology. So everything from super comfortable, that means that you're coding, like you're comfortable coding, to fairly comfortable, like your coding is fun, DIY is exciting, you know what plugins are, and you know where to source things, to number 3 here, where we have sort of comfortable, like you like to learn, it's a little challenging, but DIY is still fun. And then in the middle, we were like, sometimes I love tech, sometimes I don't. And then on the other side of the spectrum here, this is where you start to get a little bit more uncomfortable with technology, but you're still open to learning. You like to try things sometimes that kind of makes you uncomfortable. Not comfortable at all, where you understand that you need the technology, but you'd prefer someone else to do it. And then number 7, I don't think anybody watching is a number 7, because I don't think you'd even know what Facebook Live is if you're number 7. But like, if technology makes you cry, you're probably a 7. So
I've had a client like that, like a client that I have to talk her through every single thing, like how to do stuff, like how to copy and paste something. But there's some people that are just not comfortable with it at all.
Yeah. My first web client back in high school, I had to teach a woman how to double click and like what that meant. And there's all different levels of tech. And I know that people feel like they should be somewhere else, you know, whatever, but like, it's all okay. It's all okay to be wherever you're at. Just know that like, you just got to know where you're at. So then you can just make decisions around that. So you want to also consider where you're at with your website. I talked a little bit earlier about this. What I'm talking about is more for those who either have no website or no social media presence, all the way up to you have a website, you're ready to upgrade, and you have your social media established. So if you're beyond that, if you've got all your stuff together, then like, you know, you probably learned some things from this, from what I'm talking about. But this my focal point is like people who are sort of in the struggle of trying to figure it out.
Mm-hmm.
Getting down to basics in regards to domain names, you probably agree with me on a lot of these things since you're a marketer, but if you're going to snag a domain name, make sure it's easy to spell, short if possible, easy to remember, minimize your dashes. It's so confusing and slightly annoying to like try to communicate a domain name and have to say dash every time and, you know, or to have to spell it out every time. So when you're thinking about grabbing a domain name, make sure that you're thinking about, you know, also what people may be Googling. So, yeah. What's your domain name?
CannamediaWorks.com.
Cool. That's easy to remember. Yeah. And I think that like, it's just really important to, you know, when you're establishing yourself as a business to like make it easy and accessible. And so domain names are like the first step. You know, remember if there's no .com, you can get .net, or there's all these other things that are a little bit more socially acceptable now to get, like .today or like whatever. But if you can get the .com, that's always my recommendation. You agree?
I totally agree. You know, there's a lot of people that do something like .life or you know, and it throws people off. And I always teach the same thing, is make sure that you do a .com, because you got to assume your audience is stupid, that they don't understand, because they're going to put in .com before they ever try the .net or.
They are. I mean, a lot of people just Google stuff now, so they'll, you know, if you got some Google search engine optimization going and you've, you know, submitted to the search engines and stuff, like they'll probably find you somehow, but you just want to make it easy, make it accessible, easy. Mm-hmm. So in regards to domain names and hosting, I want to talk about hosting, and because it is such an issue with people. I've seen people buy stuff from like the most random companies ever, and it's such a headache later to like try to fix issues regarding this. So I'm a big fan of GoDaddy. I host all my things there. I also have a 30% off coupon at the end of this if you hang around, that I can give everybody. So, you know, you can save some money on your hosting or whatever. So what I like about them is that, and what you're also looking for, is someone with good customer service, a phone number to call. A lot of these places don't have phone numbers. So if you don't see one, I would definitely be suspicious about what's going on back there. A company that has a good reputation, someone where you can talk to a human, and some company that's going to be more likely to help you troubleshoot. So that's another thing I love about GoDaddy, is that I can call them and I can talk tech to them a little bit. You know, I come from that background, so I know what to expect. I know what to ask them sometimes, but they're also a little bit more willing than other hosts to sort of walk you through trying to figure it out. I also love their one-click installs for WordPress. Again, I'm like a WordPress freak, so I love WordPress. And a lot of these hosts actually have one-click installs for WordPress, not just GoDaddy, but GoDaddy, you can install something and have it done. And you can have it installed in about 2 minutes and it's there. I like their customer service. You can set up email super easily, and then they have backup and hack tools. And I'll talk a little bit about, a hack tool that I prefer to use, and why. So here's a few ways to avoid some digital dramas. You want to buy all your domain names and hosting in the same place. I'm sure you've had some customers, clients that it's all over the place. Like track it down, and there's a lot of back and forth, and there's like moving. It's just like, if you can have everything under one roof, Also, if something goes wrong, the tech people on the hosting side can be like looking at everything as one package to help you troubleshoot. And if you don't have that, they're more likely to be like, oh, well, whatever, you have your website hosted somewhere else, it's not our problem. So it really helps with trying to track down issues. You want to buy your digital products in your name with an email address you have easy access to. I can't tell you how many times I have had clients where they've bought products in their web designer's name, their cousin's name, their husband's name, an email address that you can't, whatever, like a Hotmail address from like back in the day. Like, I don't know, but like make it easy for yourself and buy everything with your own name. You're going to have more control over this in the future.
I had a client that came to me, and then this is kind of something similar, but he had none of his social media channels were under him. And so when he lost his social media managers, it was a little tricky, when you didn't have access to it at all. And so that's something to definitely take in consideration when you have your marketing associate do this for you and do some of this work, and they didn't set it up under your name. That could come back to haunt you later down the road.
Yeah. I've seen it so many times. Please, like, just put everything in your name, even if you don't understand what's going on. But like, it's just gonna be 1,000. Sometimes what you could also do is create an email address that's just specifically for your digital products. And you could give that email address to whoever's managing your stuff. Mm-hmm. And that way they don't have like access to your personal email or whatever. I've also done that for people too, but please put it in your own name.
Yeah.
Yeah. There's going to be hosting accounts that try to like sell you extra stuff, like SEO packages and stuff like that. Me personally, I don't think they work. And there's a lot of stuff you don't need. And so you always just like ask whoever you're working with, if you are working with somebody, like what you actually need. You can purchase backup plans. GoDaddy has like, if you have like a WordPress hosting, it's like automatically backed up. I can't tell you again how many times people have lost their websites and all of their files due to a hack, an accidental deletion. They didn't keep their domain name up to date, or, they didn't pay for it or whatever. And then everything is just gone. And I would absolutely call that a digital drama. I just don't want to see that happen anymore if anyone can help it. So, just keep everything up to date. And if you want to, you can buy more than one domain name. So like if you get the .com, if you want to snag the .net and the .biz and a couple of the other popular ones so no one else can take it, you are paying annually for those things, but at the same time, it's sort of helping you out in case you do get someone with a similar business who wants to buy the domain name like yours, and then people are confused later. And then buying in bulk, you can save money by buying annual, GoDaddy goes up to 10 years. You can buy things in advance and use coupons wherever you can. So if you do all these things, you'll have way more control over your domain name. And some similar things in regards to hosting. This is also a really big deal. I see a lot of issues around. You need to consider how much traffic you'll be receiving now and also in the coming months. Bandwidth is a really big issue. I've seen websites go down because they don't have enough space or bandwidth. And I'll talk about a little bit more about like what that really means and how to consider that when you're making choices. But I've seen websites go down with like a launch where everyone's going to the site and they're all downloading things and they're doing things. And then the website goes down because it's just not enough bandwidth. And I talked about all these other things, backups and auto pay and, keeping your credit card up to date and all that stuff. But Sucuri is my favorite for fighting hacks. There's an annual fee involved, but they'll clean up a hack on your website within 4 hours of reporting it. So it's super worth it, especially for WordPress sites and, other websites that are vulnerable to hacks. So some basics about bandwidth. Bandwidth is kind of like plumbing. So your hosting account uses bandwidth when it sends and receives data from the rest of the internet. So an example of this is if your hosting account contains a 1 megabyte picture and 2000 megabytes or 2 gigabytes of bandwidth. So think about what are your plans now and what are your plans later for all the stuff that's going on your website. Do you have a lot of things going on? Do you plan to like have a blog with video or a lot of pictures, or is this just text? So one thing I recommend is if you do plan on having large files, that you save space and also headaches down the line by hosting them elsewhere. So I use Amazon S3 for a lot of my large files, and like things that you would have someone download, even images like that you really like, really beautiful looking images you want to like just not have on your server. And if you have videos that are streaming on your site, I would hope that you would have them on YouTube, Vimeo, or Wistia, one of those 3 platforms that does the streaming. They host it for you, so you're not having videos sitting on your server and then being pulled each time someone's watching them. You want that to like be living somewhere else. So yeah, keep an eye on your bandwidth usage. Talk to your host about, some of the plans you have about your website growth goals, and be prepared when it comes to website launches. When you're expecting a lot of traffic on your website, have the bandwidth to do it. Moving on to social media handles. This is my favorite place to snag social media handles, is noam.com. And you can just type in like what you're looking for, like what your name of your business is, and then it checks all of these social media accounts to see if that URL or that name is available. And they have a service that you can like snag all of them at once, or for free you can just go and you're like, oh, the Vimeo account is available. Oh, like the YouTube account is available, and just snag them. So I really, really love that. Have you ever used anything like this?
I have not, but that's like makes complete sense, because there's so many of these that I don't have handles on, and I'm like,
Yeah, I mean, like, I don't think you need everything, but at the same time, like, at least have them, like, down the line if you decide you're going to use YouTube, or like, well, YouTube's a little different because you can't have the full name unless you have like a certain amount of subscribers or something. Like, there's a limit to that, so it's a little different. But like, let's just say, I don't know, like, you're not sure if you're ever going to like be on LinkedIn with your business or not, but like, let's snag that URL just in case, in preparation. That's what I did for Tokeativity when I was like, I really like this name and I think I'm going to do something with it. I got the domain name, I went on Noam, and I like got as many social media handles as I could.
Probably smart. I love the name of Tokeativity too. It's so cute.
Thanks. It stemmed from dinner with friends. I wanted to do some creative things. That's actually one thing I forgot to mention, is that our socials usually have like a creative aspect. There's usually like a craft, like where you're sort of like,
like make something together.
Yes.
That's awesome.
Yeah. So whether it's beading, or the next one we have like potion making and mala bead making. And yeah, it's about like being active and like sort of going against that basement stoner mentality,
Yeah. Do you guys make things with cannabis sometimes too? Or like, do you do cooking together? Or?
We have not done that yet. But I mean, I foresee that happening in the future. Yeah, we don't really work with cannabis in regards to the making part, but it's just, everyone's a little stoned and making things
creative.
And creative, yeah.
Well, we all know that it does inspire creativity, so
it does. So back to the webby things. Some social media handles, some ways to avoid some digital dramas is like snag as many different social media handles as you can. Again, using that one email address. Get the closest entire spelling if you can, and reduce confusing symbols like underscores or strange spellings. Like, I've seen that a lot, is that, someone thinks that, I don't know, there's a lot of stuff that's been taken already. So it does make sense to try to like do something else, but try to be, as close as possible to your actual business name so people can find it. Make sure you're linking your social media handles into your website, and that you have a description that you can use across the board that can be changed based on character needs. So Twitter has different needs, Facebook has different needs, have a document that you can like pull all this stuff from, especially, like when you need to shift it a little bit so that it still says what you are and what you do, but it's, shifting based on character needs. And then please make sure to put your website in your profiles. I've seen a lot of people sort of forget to do that. And so it's just such a great way to like get out there. You've got more stuff out there on the web. Make sure you're putting your website on your thing. So if you do this, you'll have more control of your digital brand, and it'll help you with your organic search ability, community, and brand building. How are we doing on time?
Doing awesome.
Great.
Got plenty of time.
Sweet. Let's talk about website builders. So WordPress. WordPress powers 28% of the internet. There's two different kinds of WordPress. There's the installable software from wordpress.org, which is available on most hosts. I mentioned that there's these one-click installs like GoDaddy has. And then there's sites that live on wordpress.com, which is their hosting. So I'll just talk a little bit about wordpress.org and that particular software. Got that one-click install from your host. I'm going to say that again and again because it's like such an easy way to install and have something up super quick, which you can like work on over time or put a landing page in front of and work on behind the scenes. They have tons of free, cool-looking themes. There's the community, which is, I think, the biggest seller here, is over 64 million. And it's probably more than this since I've first written this, but you'll always be able to find somebody that knows WordPress in some way or another in the world. The plugins that they have, there's free ones, there's paid ones. You can get up and running really quickly. And I do recommend, if you are going to go with WordPress, you get a WordPress hosting specific package with your website host. So GoDaddy does have website WordPress packages that you can get. Other hosts usually do too, or there's actual hosting. I don't remember, I don't use them, but there's a hosting business that is only WordPress hosting. They don't do anything else. So they just are better for WordPress in general. They just work better. So if you plan to do it yourself, just check in with yourself on the tech scale here. I sort of put this at a 1 to 4, somewhere between you're super comfortable and you code to being in the middle where you love technology and sometimes you don't. If you're outside of that scale, maybe using the WordPress software isn't for you, but there are other choices that you can make. So let's talk a little bit about sites that live on WordPress.com. So yay, it's great for beginner sites, can be exported out into a larger site. Let's say you start on WordPress.com and in a year you're making money and you can pay somebody to like do things. That can be exported out into a bunch of different ways. You can use WordPress.org software and whatever. Again, you can get up and running really quickly. Your site lives on WordPress.com as and they're your host. You have limited growth access because they control it. You can't directly edit the files or hire a developer to do more, and you do have to watch for bandwidth limits. So this is really like 4 basic stuff. You want a blog, you want like about services, contacts, like some basic things going on. WordPress.com may be a great place to host. I kind of put this in a 3 to 5 range because I think that people who code or who think DIY is super exciting are going to get frustrated by the limitations. And yeah, the sort of the middle ground of 3 to 4, somewhere between sort of comfortable and less comfortable technology, you can find your way through there. What do you use?
Weebly.
Ah, okay, cool.
Yeah, and I've a lot of experience with WordPress too, but I switched over to Weebly.
From WordPress.
From WordPress.
Were you on WordPress.com?
And mainly because it was mainly because of my customers, and I just needed. It's hard to kind of teach your customers how to use WordPress compared to the Weeblies, and that was mainly why, because I was dealing with more people that just don't want to have their hands in on this,
Yeah, that makes sense. And that's why I kind of put this back where the WordPress here, I would, again, this is more for people who are like, love coding or like really love DIY stuff or whatever. And like and then the WordPress.com, like I said, is sort of like in the middle, but I can understand like when you just want to have some basic stuff, you want the basic editors. But
Yeah.
I do feel like people do end up, once they grow beyond that, they end up, doing something beyond the
Agreed.
Yeah.
Yeah, agreed.
It's good for getting up and running. So Squarespace is super popular right now, and the awesome sauce of it is that you got people to talk to. You can call somebody and be like, I need help, for pretty inexpensive. You can get up and running quickly. It's super pretty. They have all these beautiful, aesthetically pleasing templates. It's great for beginners. They also have an installable or an add-on where you can add on a store. They've processed cards and they'll deal with all the SSL stuff. So it's all the stuff you don't really want to deal with. They're kind of dealing with it for you. And the meh part of it is the development community is small. So there are really not a lot of Squarespace developers, although they're like, evolving. They have their own language. So it's kind of hard to sort of break into. It's not just like basic HTML, CSS, PHP. It's like they have their own thing going on. And then if you want to build on top of it, it's a little bit more challenging to build. So that's great. Again, if you're like about services, contact, you have a store. But then if you're deciding you need to expand beyond that, you'll probably end up having to go with some custom coding down the line or redesigning your site. But it's great. It's beautiful. Love some Squarespace.
I've heard a lot of great things about it too.
Yeah, I think that people who like it really like it. And I support that, so this is actually where I stretch the range out a little bit wider. There's lots of, it increases the diversity of people who can use it. But again, if you're a coder, you're going to find this like frustrating and challenging because you're just going to do your own thing and you're going to have to like, jump through a lot of hoops to make stuff happen. Because again, everything is living on Squarespace. You don't have control over it like you would if you have it hosted somewhere else. And, depending on your needs of control of your own stuff, will depend on like what choices you make. So yeah, so I do think Squarespace is a good choice. And it's got like fairly inexpensive ways to keep up and running, but not as great on the growth side. Wix and Weebly are very similar. There's a free option, which is great. Again, for people getting started who don't have a marketing budget. They've got some templates. It's really good for beginners. Again, developers will not want to work with this. So if you're like, if you have a Wix site and you like need help with it, a developer is going to be like, oh my God, like, why are you using that? So if you're asking for development help, maybe it's time to actually shift gears and do something else. But it's a great website builder and, just some of the basics. And you will probably have to redesign your site at some point. Do it yourself, 2 to 5 range here, fairly comfortable to less comfortable. Again, if you're a coder, you're going to be frustrated by the limitations. And I don't really know if people who are like not comfortable with technology like Wix. I'm not really sure. Haven't really worked with anybody. I don't know. I kept them out of it. And then Weebly is like totally similar in my opinion. Like it's got this free options. It's great. It's got drag and drop stuff. They've really expanded on like their tools in the last couple of years. So it's great for beginners. And then again, developers probably not want to work with the Weebly sites. They'll be like, what are you doing? Can I just redesign this for you? Mm-hmm. Yeah. So a little bit about custom coded websites. These are awesome because you can do whatever you want and you can make it look however you want. And if you code, this is 100% the way you want to go. And if you don't code, you can maybe have a CMS built in and then learn how to update that. The harder part about this is that there's more money up front over time. And then you have definitely more dependency on others if you don't code or if you don't, like, this isn't like your thing. So I only recommend that for people who like to code. Or I didn't put this on the chart here, but if money is not an issue, if you have like a huge marketing budget, if your company is doing really amazing and you definitely want to have someone like in-house, then custom coding and specially designed things could be for you. A little bit of hiring help, ways to avoid digital dramas. Make sure you have some budget, some money to hire people. There is a big range of people and skill sets. So the people that are charging $20 an hour for website things, I would be wary of their location. And like, are they here in America? Are they somewhere else? Is that matter to you? But also, are they fresh out of college and they really don't have the professional background and planning and thought process that someone who's been doing it for a long time has? That's probably also the case. So the range of cost, I believe, ranges with experience. And also overhead. So someone who's like has a home office doesn't have as much overhead as someone who is running like a 10-person digital shop, So when you're thinking about who to hire, make sure you just, you have some money put aside for that choice and that you're doing your due diligence and looking to see who you want to work with. Where this also comes into play is, can you communicate easily with them? Like, are you having exchanges? Are you understanding each other? Or is it like a constant fight or argument about something? You really want to be able to communicate easily with the people you're working with. You want to have to-do lists and goals. And so sometimes, like, I've helped a lot of people try to figure that out because they don't know what their goals are and they just get overwhelmed. They have 100 things to do. And what I do is I help them figure out like what next 3 steps they need to do and prioritize them. So like having goals lists and a to-do list is super helpful. Asking what is realistic versus what's desired. So a lot of people are like, I need a website and I need it by Friday. Like, that's kind of crazy. Like, what?
Yeah.
Maybe you need a landing page. Maybe you need some, but people get on this emergency train and then suddenly it's everybody else's emergency and it's just a crazy maker. And you're way more likely to have some digital dramas along the way. So make sure you're planning things as best you can. I know opportunities pop up all the time, but like try to be, honest and respectful of people you're working with and yourself about what is realistic. If you are working with somebody, make sure you're meeting with them either weekly or scheduling out meetings before hanging up. Otherwise, like, a lot of time can go by and you sort of miss each other. And then suddenly 3 weeks has gone by and you haven't communicated about your project. If challenges do come up, try to talk in person or video instead of email or text, because a lot of things can be misunderstood or miscommunicated via the part of communication that doesn't have any emotion, which is words.
Yeah.
Can you relate to that?
Oh, absolutely. Because that's what, like, people just read text a little bit wrong, and especially when you're dealing, this can be very frustrating sometimes for the person building the website and then for the customer too, because, it's words can help you talk it out, and actually being on the phone together. And, I always try to have very constant communication, so we're staying on the same page with each other, because assumptions are made.
Lots of assumptions. And that's actually one of my things here is don't make assumptions.
Yes, assumptions are made for sure.
Well, because the mind wants to piece everything together, and if it doesn't have enough information because there's been less communication, it'll just kind of like put stuff in there. So also try not to take anything personally. It's hard, but it's possible. And you'll save yourself a ton of drama. And then asking questions, whenever possible. So communication is key, being realistic, having some goals, and, you'll reduce your digital dramas. You'll have more peaceful projects and you'll thank yourself later. This is the last part of my talk here, is talking about some Google search engine optimization techniques that still work in 2017. So if you're doing these things, you're going to help yourself with some SEO. This is really not in any particular order. just sort of in like my mind's like, here's the things that are important. But having a mobile friendly website, that was a really big change in April 2015. Google decided they were going to push down websites that were not mobile friendly and push up websites that were mobile friendly. So what does that mean? It means that you have a mobile version of your website. And a lot of the WordPress websites and themes come with mobile versions. There's also things and tools out there where you can just pay a monthly fee and they make a version for you. So make sure that you have a mobile friendly version of your site. That's a really big deal. The URL name and permalink structure is really important. So I'm going to use one of my websites as an example. I lost both my parents to cancer when I was in my 20s. It's one of the reasons why cannabis has become another thread of importance to me, and accessibility. And so when I started a blog, I started losingyourparents.org, and I thought to myself, what are people going to search for? What am I searching for? And so I got losingyourparents.org. That a lot of people find me because they're looking for those words, and then they find my blog. So the URL name and structure is really important because it's the first thing Google finds is in association with your URL, and then the rest of the stuff that comes after it. So WordPress has permalink structures where you can have categories and tags, and that's all in the long piece. And if they're keyword rich, that really, 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 really helps. And by keyword rich, do you know what I mean?
Yes, I do.
Okay. So can you tell everybody like what that means?
Keyword rich. Well,
Yeah.
It's what people are searching for you on Google, and so rich with those. I always tell people what you're doing, your service or product, and then your regional aspect. So keyword rich for me would be West Michigan Marketing Company or West Michigan Cannabis Marketing Company. Michigan Cannabis Marketing Company.
Yes. So, I mean, like there are different ways you can use keywords in your website, but if your domain name has some of these keywords already, you've like got so many things going for you.
Yeah.
So,
I bought a domain that I haven't done anything with it, and I know it will do me really well because it has every keyword that I want, but I haven't done anything with it yet because I was like, well, I have CannabisWorks.com, so, but I completely get it. And that's what's important is, like, especially like dispensaries, I think, is having the right domain, because sometimes they're picking names that are already taken.
Yeah.
And that's when they can add that whole regional aspect to it.
Yeah, like, I mean, it's very helpful, especially, I mean, because cannabis right now is like state specific. A lot of the companies that touch the plant, so it's very helpful. But at the same time, if you do plan on expanding outside of your region, having like, Michigan in the name may hurt you down the line. So it really depends on, do you plan on expanding outside of your region or not? Does that matter to you? So that kind of, I'm jumping down to tags and descriptions because this is actually super important. So when you have your website, if it's properly tagged and you have descriptions of all the things that are going, it works in conjunction with your permalink structure. So anything that is keyword rich. I use Yoast SEO for WordPress. And I know that Squarespace has like some tools integrated in with their backend to do some of this title tag and description stuff, but it's actually what pops up in Google, what you see at the top, and then what you see like right underneath as the title tags and descriptions. You want your website to be fast. Google pushes down websites that are slow. This is where that loading stuff and the bandwidth comes in. If you want to like get your large files, if you have a lot of them, like hosted somewhere else, if you possibly can, reducing the amount of coding that gets loaded, like that will all help increase how fast your website is, and that will also bump you up. Properly tagged H1, H2s, like those are like those headers where you can like highlight something and it tells it it's a header. that helps Google know that, hey, this website's actually doing all the right stuff. We like them. Let's give them a little boost. Keyword rich content, like a blog, like you were thinking about doing, it's very helpful. You increase the amount of pages you have on your website that's in Google, and especially if there's tags and categories like that. Again, as much stuff as possible that people can search for in Google and then find you. You want to increase that. Keeping it up to date. I see this a lot. This is a big mistake people make. They don't index their sites with search engines. Like Google will eventually spider out and find your site, but you can actually increase it by submitting it using Google Webmaster Tools. So, and then Bing also has a Webmaster Tool, which connects to Yahoo and Bing. I think they're owned by this, the same umbrella now. But you can also see a lot of data behind the scenes with Google Webmaster Tools. It knows a lot of stuff, and you can use that to help yourself move forward. Schema tags. This is, I guess, I would call it a new thing because it's like in the last couple of years, but movie theaters a lot of the time have schema tags in the back end that pulls up those tiny little pieces of information about upcoming movies and the times and stuff. And so that's super helpful when it comes to Google because you're giving additional information to read. And again, it's like, oh my God, I love this. Please, like, give me more information to pull. The longer you have a domain name, the more likely Google will be like, I love you. So keep your domain names, try to stay on them as long as possible. Try not to like hop around and like just start a million projects and keep changing it or whatever. The longer you're on Google, the more it will like you. This is a new change with Google's algorithm. If you have an SSL certificate, it will pop you up higher. I actually think it's kind of silly because it's an expense for people a lot of the time to buy one, even if they don't need one. These are used when you have an online store for security purposes, when people are using credit cards. And but if you do have one, this will help with getting you higher up in Google. But again, it's an expense most of the time. I do believe that I read that Squarespace is offering SSL, like it's just part of their thing now. So that's a thing.
And especially if you're taking money, right?
Oh yeah, most definitely. Like you need to have an SSL certificate on your site if people are putting credit cards in there. And so like we use Eventbrite a lot for our events. Eventbrite is the host for those particular things, and they have an SSL certificate, so we don't have to deal with anything like that. But if we were to sell things, sorry,
I use Eventbrite too.
Oh, cool. Yeah. That also helps a lot actually with getting some of your stuff out there into Google because they have a great system for Google SEO. Any events that you're like, the more that you can get out there, the better. Last things here is using alt tags and keywords in your images and also calling them, like naming them, not like 1234.jpg, but like writing-tips.jpg or like, if you name the things that you're uploading, that's actually going to help you with your SEO and will help people find you. Social media profiles, making sure you have those and they're linked in. Linking internal content. So if you're writing blogs or you're referring to a service that you have, connecting those things. Continued trusted backlinks. That's like kind of what it sounds like. It's like people sending you. Sorry, I lost my train of thought for a second. You know why? Because I'm like, oh my God, it's like about an hour.
People backing out to you or backlinking to you.
Yes.
Which I think, like, I always encourage my clients to consider doing PR, because when you have a very prominent news agency or, a company like that has a really large following, Google's like, yes, and that really helps.
Big time. Yeah. So any press you can get, any trusted backlinks you can get, like even getting on your friend's website under their recommended resources is a trusted backlink. So the more of that, the better. And then if you have a physical location, making sure you register that with Google Business. Put it on the map, make sure it's on that sidebar. really helpful. This is my favorite SEO tool. And then just make sure you're keeping your traffic flowing. There's all these other tools out there like MailChimp, Constant Contact, Eventbrite, which we just talked about. Getting on social media. I know with cannabis, and advertising with social media, it's a little bit kind of hairy because you're not really sure if you're going to get shut down or not. Because social media is still trying to find its way with the cannabis industry.
Mm-hmm.
And then I put discuss here. If you have a website you have with a blog, this is a commenting tool that I really think is super helpful. So then just finishing with another Seth Godin quote, invent your own next chapter. We're all inventing our lives. We're all creatresses of our life, and we're all inventing our next chapter in our businesses. So, I want to thank you for having me. I have a list of resources and money-saving coupons if you put your email address on tokeativity.com/class resources, it'll shoot you back with a long list of some of the things I talked about. The 30% off a GoDaddy coupon I talked about, if you go to bit.ly/GoDaddy discounts, that'll give you 30% off of any new products. If you have questions about website designing and planning strategies, or if you're interested in knowing more about Tokeativity, our women's community, you can email me, lisa@tokeativity.com. And then I have some upcoming classes that are here in Portland with Sativa Science Club. We're doing kind of what we did here today, but an extended version of this on the 25th of October. And in November, we have a part 2 of web design and planning strategies, page writing, Google SEO, and analytics. And then the third one I'm doing is actually working on a WordPress website. So that's all happening in Portland. And I also do one-on-one consultations for people who are looking for help with their planning.
That's awesome. Thank you so much for doing this today.
You're welcome. Thank you so much for asking me part of it. It's been really
It's been great to get your insight on I've taken a big step back. I don't really build websites anymore. I send my clients to people like you, and so because that whole social media thing is what's keeping me busy and my fights with Facebook, which are never ending, but there are ways of getting around Facebook and sometimes the inner attorney comes out of me. I'm not an attorney, but it's kind of what you have to do is you have to really state your case and show them that you're not promoting the sale of a federally illegal product, because they shut you down regardless. They say no to sponsorship opportunities and you can either fight it or not. So
you've had clients that had their accounts shut down?
Oh yes, I've had my account shut down before, and I learned, and this was a couple of years ago, but I crossed the line a bit. I did kind of do something that was against their policy. I did a giveaway, and they took it away, and I learned a lot from that. And and I teach businesses how to do it, and I work with mainly service providers. People that provide legal services like attorneys and consultants and marketing companies, things like that. So it's a fun little world, and it'll be interesting to see what Facebook does over time with their policy. As this continues to change, what they're going to allow. Are they going to continue kind of allowing us to do things if we're not promoting it, or are they going to eventually just say no, nothing? So,
yeah, that'll be really interesting. It's definitely living on the edge a little bit is what kind of posts are going to be too edgy. There's definitely a lot of stuff out there where people are showing product and they're showing them smoking and all this stuff. And so it's where is the line, and where are you willing to take risks and where are you not?
Yeah, because when you take the risk and you get your account taken away, it hurts. I mean, and I worry about that all the time. Am I pushing it too far? Are they going to shut me down eventually? Because when they shut you down, they just ignore you. And
they don't care.
They don't care. There's no getting your account back. And like I said, it's just rebuilding when you've spent so much time or money building up that audience can be really painful.
Yeah.
And we'll see what Google does too with AdWords. over time. So it's an interesting road with cannabis marketing.
Very, very interesting.
But we're paving the way, and people in this industry really needs to know how to effectively market to their customers, because there's such a huge need for information on how to use cannabis to treat things, and to involve cannabis in their everyday lives. And then that's an opportunity for these businesses, huge opportunity.
Mm-hmm.
So because people are going to the internet for the information.
They are. Well, I
They
look
don't have to
forward
leave their
to.
house and attach their face to cannabis that way.
Yeah. I was gonna say I look forward to staying connected with you and seeing how things go with this whole cannabis advertising world and marketing world. It's just, I feel like it's ever changing, and we're definitely living on the edge.
Yes, we are. And thank you so much. I will definitely be reaching out to you. And thank you for taking the time to be our mentor this fabulous Monday. And thanks to our audience. Let me check to make sure, see if we have any questions really quick before we move on. If you have questions for Lisa, please feel free to post them in the comments section of this video. Lisa, if you don't mind, we would appreciate it if you went through there and answered any questions that might be there. And next Monday, we'll be back here at the same time at 3 o'clock Eastern, 12 o'clock West Coast time. We are going to be right here with another mentor for Mentor Monday. And it doesn't look like we have any questions. So wait.
I'll circle back.
Does WEiC have backup plans?
Does WEiC have backup plans?
Yeah.
That's a good question. I don't know the answer, but I can find out.
Okay. And we have a lot of thank yous from our audience for today. So
that's great. You're welcome.
Yeah. And okay.
Yeah, feel free to reach out to me if you have any questions. I will also circle back to the Facebook Live periodically just to see if there's anything that pops up there. If you just tag me in there, I'm in the Caden Academy group, Lisa A. Caparello-Snyder. That's my legal married name. And I'd be happy to help you, with whatever digital dramas you may be trying to avoid or experiencing.
Wonderful. Well, thank you, Lisa, and have a wonderful day.
Thank you. You too.
Bye.
Bye.